adjacent to this one, the Mayall Mills. There's a little back and forth, so we'll get that all worked out with the review engineer and town staff, and be happy to address them.
Because they had referenced some errors in the storm CAD and some other things, so that's all going to need to get addressed before any preliminary approval.
Okay.
So I would say continue the back and forth and get all that resolved. Anything additional from the board? Specific to the engineering?
No.
Yeah, so I think we're all in support of whatever feedback you get from the town engineer, so.
Absolutely.
There's nothing from our perspective, nothing different there. So then, comments from town staff. Is there anything there that you needed input or were questioning from, whether you agree with it or not?
The only questions that I had on that were, there are requirements for, like I said, lighting and a planting plan. So for lighting, is that something where the staff or the board would be looking for like a photometric plan showing light levels on the site, things of that nature?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get that for you. And then in terms of plantings, I didn't find any specific requirements, you know, in terms of amount or type of species, things of that nature for plantings. If I just put together a planting plan showing some street trees and maybe some decorative other plantings, is that sufficient for the board and staff?
So yeah, typically, like, we're not going to design your landscaping plan here. We would look to you to present one and we would approve it, but I think in general, the board would prefer more buffering rather than less.
Yep.
I did notice, I don't have it out, but there's at least one property in front of, it's the Linwood property, which looks like there's, you know, that to me, I think could use some additional buffering.
Okay.
That's the one that's adjacent to your 3 unit.
Yep.
I mean, I know you have the required 50-foot buffer, but I'd like to see some additional, some type of evergreen thick buffering
Okay.
there.
Yep.
In particular. That's probably my only comment to start on the landscaping. Anything from either of you?
The only thing I would add, Mr. Chairman, is along the access path, some trees, street trees. I'm not a landscape architect, but you know, to fill in, you're going to obviously have to do a lot of clearing, and even in the buffer zone, the natural wood that's there is going to be impacted. So as much as you can encourage the natural vegetation to return, to create, you know, to have the buffer actually have vegetated.
Absolutely.
You know, native. You don't need it to, not so that it needs to be maintained or anything, but get some vegetation back into those spaces.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, so that, so landscaping and buffering are item 8 for the town staff. So both of those are going to be required before preliminary approval.
Okay.
We'll get you as far as we can tonight, but you're not going to get that far.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, before we do any deliberations up here, I will open this for a public hearing. So is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this project? Anyone online, Chris?
Not seeing any hands, no.
Okay, so I'll close the public comment on this one. We will continue on. So the one thing we can get you through is your conditional use. This is a conditional use. The applicant provided their narrative to the 7 conditional use standards in their packet. Typically, past practice, we've always read through these one by one. I don't really personally see a need to do that, especially with so much that we have going on. So assuming all of us agree that it meets all 7, I think we can just do it in one vote to be a bit more efficient than walking through step by step. So I guess before we get to that, I'll just do a straw poll. Does anyone have any concerns about any of the 7 conditional use standards for this project?
I do not. I think it meets the standards.
Jenny?
I think so too.
Yeah, and I would agree. So I think, given that, we can have a motion that covers all of them at once.
All right.
So, anybody wish to make that motion?
I'm just looking at the draft that's here,
Well,
if it needs to be revised.
That's for completeness. Oh, there it is,
The
yep.
conditional use.
Yeah.
Conditional use. Do we need to reference all of the conditions
I
somehow,
don't
or
think
this
so.
works?
I think
All right.
that's- I think it's fine.
Then I will make a stab at it. I move to find the conditional use application complete and approve the conditional use for a proposal by Serenity Apartments LLC, represented by BH2M Engineering, to create a 7-unit multifamily development on the 9.9 acre property at tax map 21, lot 26-20-15, near 287 Mayall Road in the Business Development -1 and Rural Residential and Agricultural Zoning Districts. This proposal is subject to major subdivision review, major site plan review, multifamily development standards, and conditional use review.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. You have your conditional use approval.
Awesome, thank you.
So staff had a few recommended discussion items for us. So I'm just going to go through those. First one was regarding phosphorus management plan being not applicable per staff comment 2. I would concur with that.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah, okay, so good there. 25-foot setback from the edge of the driveway to the buildings. So Kristen, maybe a little context of what your potential concern there would be helpful.
Yeah, typically a project has a right-of-way, like an actual street. In this instance, because it's a multifamily development of this nature, it's more of a driveway. So there's not a setback per se that applies here. So they're proposing, I think it looks like about 25 feet of driveway, and they talked about 1 parking space in the garage and 1 in the driveway to meet their 2 parking spaces, which the board had advised they were that you guys were good with last time as an approach due to the nature of the development. So just double checking that this, as proposed, looks appropriate to you with the amount of setback from the effective driveway loop.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that seems
Yes,
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Jenya?
It's all good with me.
Yeah, I think it seems fine to me as well, unless staff had some specific objection or concern
Just
to
wanted to
it.
confirm because it's something that's kind of up to you. So.
Yeah, okay. And then, I mean, that goes along with the parking arrangement as well, which, I mean, it seems fine to me. They've got the 2 plus the 4 visitor parking. So that meets any standard, right, that would be applicable. Anything from the board?
No, it looks appropriate,
Cool.
consistent with what we had talked about, I think, the last time, too.
Okay, I agree, so I think we're good there. Landscaping, we gave you input on landscaping and buffering to the road. So absent doing a design plan for you, I think you have some guidance there.
Yep.
Exterior lighting, you're going to provide the lighting plan, so we'll review that next time.
Mr.
Go
Chair,
ahead.
the one thought, I don't know exactly what's being proposed, and the units are certainly tucked back a bit, but depending on the lighting, if it isn't at least mostly downward facing, like point to the light towards the ground as opposed to just out, even through the trees, I experience it every day. A bright light can really be disruptive, so.
Absolutely.
Is limiting keep our dark skies.
Sounds good to me. I'll make sure that's in there.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is a rural area, and lighting has not been a favored topic among public response that we've gotten, so
Understood.
definitely minimize it, and certainly down-facing.
Yep.
Yeah, and the motion activated you mentioned as well,
Yeah.
sounds really nice, so that it's not just going all the time.
Okay. That sounds great. Thank you.
Well, and it's safety.
Yeah.
People will be walking with dogs.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So open space, so you have not submitted the open space plan yet, is that right?
Correct. So
So,
the overall intent with this was the full build out of the project is 7 units. So there will never really be any additional development of the property beyond what you see on the plan. The remaining land, which is, the large majority of the site, will be owned by Serenity Apartments LLC. So technically that is all open space owned by the applicant. If you would like an area to be specifically designated as open space, that can be like a forever space. If I know Kristen brought up, if it ever gets condoized and they're sold out, it could be an area that is specific for that use. Be happy to locate that somewhere on the site. Just whatever makes the board happy and works for the ordinance.
yeah, so I would encourage you to set aside open space that is not wetlands.
Yep.
That's my primary comment.
Okay.
Like good usable space that, can be used for recreation or whatever by the people that live there. Anything else?
I think if, to the extent that there is a designation on your final plan that essentially results in no development of the remaining open space, I think that's what we would like to see also. At
Okay.
least I would.
Okay.
so it should be on the drawings, right?
Yeah, so that
Right.
if a designation of open space basically means, okay, a future owner of this property can't develop it, great. I don't know exactly what the magical words and plan designation is needed, but I would like to see an assurance that in the future, no future owner can develop the remaining balance of this land.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I think that's fair, given the density.
Yep.
Okay, and then last is, in discussion items, is preliminary approval, which, in my opinion, we're definitely not going to get to, because I don't even think we're going to find it complete.
Yeah.
Because
Without the
they haven't-
landscaping.
Yeah, without the landscaping and the lighting. In my opinion, this is kind of where we need to stop, and we'll pick it up next time when you have that, and then look at completeness and preliminary. So, if that sounds good to you, do you have any other input you would like from us tonight?
I do not. Thank you all for your time, and we'll get back to you with all the remaining information, get this one moved on.
All right, we'll see
Thank
you
you.
next time, thanks.
Ooh. Campbell Shore.
All right, next up is SE Development Subdivision. This is a request by SE Development, represented by DM Roma Consulting Engineers, for Planning Board preliminary plan review of a proposal to create a 4-lot subdivision on the 17.21 plus or minus acre parcel at 30 Campbell Shore Road at tax map 56, lot 17-19-02, in the Rural Residential Agricultural Zoning District and the Shoreland Zoning Stream Protection District. This proposal is subject to shoreline zoning and to major subdivision review. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is JP Conley. I'm here representing SE Development LLC, and I work for DM Roma Consulting Engineers. The project that I'm hoping I can show you guys. I am just going to continue on. There's my man. So the project is located off of Campbell Shore Road. It's approximately 30 Campbell Shore Road. We're proposing a 4-lot subdivision, 3 of which will be developed upon. The 4th will be retained undeveloped land. The site consists of 7 dwellings, 1 duplex, and 5 single-family homes with shared driveways. Based on discussions with staff and butters, we have revised the plan that we brought to you for sketch. We eliminated development of the upland area on Lot 1 closest to the southerly boundary. We have provided a widened road section to provide an additional foot of flat area on the easterly side of the road for additional walkway safety area. In addition to that, we are going to be curbing the first 300 and 350 feet of road, providing a 20-foot paved travel section through there. Reason being, we were having difficulty making our stormwater numbers work. We couldn't eliminate that area from not being treated, so I'm having to capture all that stormwater and bring it down to one of the 2 stormwater ponds. Aside from that, I'm ready to open it up to questions from the board, and we didn't see anything in the comments or from the peer review consultant that we were really deterred by. I am meeting with code enforcement to further discuss shoreland requirements for this project tomorrow at 3 p.m. So I'm hoping that we'll have that resolved as well. In addition to that, the only other things I need to update the board on are that we did have an HHE 200 come back with a revision for Lot 2. I'm not sure if that made your packet or not. It may have, but I don't know. And then the hydrogeo assessment was performed last week, so I expect to have those results this week as well. So well in advance of the final subdivision presentation that I make. So.
Okay, thanks. Glad to see you're paving the first part of that road. I remember from the site walk, one of my concerns was the road structure and over that wet area, so.
The entire road's gonna be paved.
Oh, I thought you said the,
Curved.
oh, curved. Oh,
Curved.
good,
Yeah.
okay.
The
whole
driveways
thing's
will
gonna be
remain gravel, but
Okay,
the
even better.
roadway has to be paved.
Yeah.
Or paved. Excuse me, impervious
Yeah.
paved. The reason being is the number of units. We're going to
Right.
exceed the minimum
Yeah.
number for the private right-of-way
Yeah.
street, so.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate you taking a creative look at this site and finding a way that worked for you and eliminating that first lot. I think none of us really felt like that was a great addition to the area in that configuration. So appreciate the extra time and coming up with something that hopefully the board finds is a better solution. I know at least that part of it I think is a big improvement for me.
Appreciate that. I have to share that with the staff. They definitely assisted with that whole process.
Okay, any initial comments from the board? I'll walk through the memo.
Well, if I can go back to the retention ponds, are you going to make a recommendation or like create maintenance program for them so they wouldn't lose their capacity with time?
I'm not entirely sure how to answer that question, to be honest with you. What I can show you is what we've designed for the ponds, and if there's any comments or concerns with them, I'd be more than happy to address them. The two ponds that are our primary stormwater ponds are shown in the middle of the page, right here. I don't know if you can see the cursor. There's filter basin 1 on the north part of the page right there. Filter basin 2. These will be constructed as grass underlying soil filter basins. So they'll have a berm edge to them. They'll have a limited of disturbance with a tree line. These are solid berms. They'll have a under drain system and an
Okay, they will have under drains.
Yeah, both of them will. In fact, actually, we have a third pond. It's a bioretention area. It's in the back of lot 2 and 3. That will also have an under drain system. Only pond, filter basin 2, is required to have a outlet control structure. The other two ponds are simply a under drain system with a spillway.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good answer.
Any initial comments, Melinda?
No, I just reiterate what the chair said about the pushing the development further away from the existing homes. And it looks like you've got your same amount of number of structure or residences, but you've got it in a better place.
Yes. Again, staff helped us
We have
get through that.
pretty great staff.
I mean, the applicant would really like to avoid having to use the duplex configuration, but in this scenario, it makes sense. And we still think it makes it for a nice layout. Unfortunately, I will have some clearing in that area. I need to put a fire cistern, as well as I made that a little bit larger than necessary to accommodate future, like a second cistern if necessary, or removal and repair of cisterns. And I may end up utilizing some of that area towards our 5% open space, but I'm not certain on that.
So since you brought it up, I'll ask my question now.
Sure.
Your cistern is underground?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought it was, but wanted to confirm.
There are details in the project plan set. I don't know if I have it up here. It's a rectangular, multiple component structure. It's not individual tanks, integral. At this point, we may end up using a system that's slightly different, more modular, but the detail that I have included in the project at this date, the fire department has seen, and I'm not sure. We're gonna meet with the fire department as well to go over everything, and not only this phase, but any future phases, that we kind of accommodate them all into one shot. We don't really want to go in, create multiple cistern excavations.
Okay.
It's here, Dad, if you wanted to see it.
No, that's fine. I just,
Okay.
I don't need to see the details of it.
Dan, would you allow a question?
Sure.
About the cisterns, am I correct in remembering that the chief is allowing you to size that down from 25 to 18,000 gallons, is that correct?
That's what was mentioned in the memo, and we did see that comment as well. I'm gonna meet with the chief to discuss that, because there is a potential for future development here on this lot. We probably will, we'll come to some sort of agreement and make sure it's a happy medium. We're not gonna just address the now, if in 2 to 3 years, come back, amend this, and have to do it again.
Yeah, I was curious as to how much of a savings there would be there. The extra capacity can have value beyond just even the subdivision too.
Yeah, it is.
The council's been looking into cisterns and the current process we have for them, so that's why I was curious.
Ideally, I think the location for the cistern, to make it more community beneficial, would be somewhere at the entrance to the site. Fortunately, the site is only 54 feet wide at the front. Unless I cheat and put it on somebody else's property, it's just not gonna work, and
Yep.
I don't like lawsuits. So
Well,
right
it's
now.
not that far off the road that it couldn't be
Right.
accessed.
Exactly, pump truck, very, 150 feet from the road right now is the approximate
Yep.
receiver, so,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
No, that's a good point.
Can I just,
Sure.
just point of clarification, just so the board knows that the fire chief's recommendation is not a waiver, it is what's in the ordinance. What's in the ordinance is 2,000 per dwelling unit with a minimum that's described in the ordinance. I think it's been interpreted differently in the past, but he clarified that that's how he interprets it and what he intended with it as far as gallons per dwelling unit. So I just want to be clear that he's not like asking you to waive the requirement. He just feels that it's less than how it was otherwise interpreted.
Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to insinuate that
Yeah.
it was an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Just- Yeah, yep. Just looking for added capacity
Yes.
where we don't have any.
Yep.
Yep, okay. Next up are waivers. So there's 2 waivers the applicant is requesting. The first is for eliminating streetlights at the intersection and the dead end. And from my point of view, this is one that I support 100%. We heard loud and clear at the site walk that it wasn't something the neighbors were interested in. We've had other issues, other recent issues with the same thing. There's a half a dozen roads with more dwelling units on it than this one on that road, and none have streetlights. So I'm totally in favor of this one.
I am super fond of dark skies. But it does give me some pause for the intersection where staff has recommended that we don't grant a waiver there, but I could be persuaded. And I'm curious if there's members of the public here who might help me on that. But, so I'm still a little on the fence, but leaning in the,
So, I can help you, because I live on that road.
Oh, you
I live
do?
further up that road, and that's why I know there's
No other
about half
streetlight.
a dozen roads that, yeah, there is one streetlight at the intersection of Mountain View and Jenny Drive. That's the only one. And, Mountain View Road has many dozens of houses on it. It's another major road. The rest are even, there's none. So it would not be out of character to not have one here.
Well, if safety is not concerned, I wouldn't mind to
yeah, I think that's
give
really
that waiver.
the question with the staff is safety a concern? Yeah, but like you said, everyone else doesn't.
You've got a public hearing, so.
Yeah,
That's right. You put
We'll
other folks
find
up to
out.
say how you want to handle it.
Yeah.
If I may also add.
Sure.
Going to the effect of safety, we do have some significant site distances.
Oh, okay.
So looking to the left is our coming out, looking towards Tambor Trail, Route 25, excuse me. That site distance is 570 feet plus.
Okay.
Looking to the right, it's 870 feet.
Okay.
So you have a fair amount of distance to
Oh,
see
yes.
headlights during
Gotcha.
and versus a parked car at the intersection, you'll see that for a while too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, safety first, whatever.
Yeah. So we'll actually vote later on, but
Okay.
that's where I would stand on that one.
Okay.
Monumentation, so this one is, it's come up more than once.
I think
So
I
in
championed
your-
this one.
I can't remember if it was you. I know Wayne has also spoken to it. So in our ordinance, we require stone monumentation. And I think from a surveyor's perspective, they don't, and I'm paraphrasing here, they don't generally favor that because they're essentially needing to carry a stone monument several hundred feet into the woods and dig a hole and bury it, as opposed to being able to drive a steel rebar stake that you can find with, surveying metal detection equipment. And I think I'll let you speak to it, but that's my understanding of the 2 reasons why it's favored, however it is in the ordinance. So
Yeah. We also like it Essentially, we're asking for not a complete waiver. We would be installing monuments for the road section itself, 2 at the end, 2 at each of the points of curvature in the road, and then 2 at the beginning point of the road. Setting additional monuments can get confusing in terms of what's a property line versus what's a right-of-way line. And if we have multiple property pins that are all the same, it kind of confuses the landowner in terms of where they live or what property they own. So we like that, but the biggest thing is the labor and the time involved in setting those monuments. You can imagine digging down 4 to 6 feet and trying to set one of these things precisely, and the rocky nature of the soil is not conducive to that. So it gets to the point where a lot of these bounds get broken and concreted in at 3 feet, 2 feet kind of thing. So whatever we can do to help the surveyors out, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. And in this case, I don't think it takes anything away from the value of the monumentation. We're still gonna have pins set at corners that they don't really move, just like the monuments wouldn't.
So I think in the past, we've allowed some leeway where monumentation is required where practicable, basically. But some of the other ones, you know, we've been reasonable, but again, we're not gonna vote on it now, but it might be, I don't know, might be a staff thing to revisit at some point, whether we really need that or not. I don't know, it's come up several times, so.
Yeah.
It's on a long list of ordinance
I'm sure
adjustments.
it's not near the top, but, okay, well, we'll vote on that a little bit later. Consulting engineer comments, anything you wanted to cover, JP, with that? Or are you in agreement with all of it?
I mean, I'm not gonna cite them, I don't have them in front of me. The only one that I remember wanting to speak to was with regards to the utilities. I think it's utilities number 2. It's basically indicating that the HHE 200 shows a septic tank within 100 feet of a major water course. That, I believe, is one that may have been revised. Essentially, the HHE 200s that we have out here are just to confirm that these septic systems will work. We plan on revisiting the septic locations prior to construction and updating the HHE 200s based on field conditions out there. It's part of the, one of the planning comments that we've had during sketch was, how does snow storage work at the Hammerhead with the relief and everything else? Well, a good portion of that knoll will be cut down, so another reason why we want to revisit the HHE 200 to make sure that when we do cut down that 3 to 4 feet, the soils below that are still conducive for a septic location. So.
And the engineer did note that you had an error also. You referred to public water service.
Maybe. I'll have to look into that, but yes,
Well,
no public water service on
You're
here.
public water, so.
It's all private.
Yep. Okay. Anything else from the board on the engineering comments?
I assume he is going to address the 5% open space then, because that's one of them.
We will either provide that, and if we're not able to provide that, we'll do the in lieu fee,
Okay.
So your preference is to find a way to provide it?
most likely.
Or, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it has to make sense, like, it has to
You've got
be,
plenty of open space there you can use.
well, we do, but we do have quite the complex of wetland network. And so finding happy balance between not interfering with the lot itself and not being on a lot, not being an easement within a lot, being its actually own open space, might be a little bit difficult. I'm hoping that I can carve out an area right here, but if I can't, then it will be the fee in lieu of.
So you wouldn't consider using part of Lot 4 for your open space?
Potentially could. It would, again, it's either, you know, I just don't know, we don't have a design for this yet, I don't know, I don't want to fix it somewhere and then find out later on that I need to put my septic there or something like that. So I'd rather not do anything on Lot 4, since it's not, there's no plan for it at this time.
So your Lot 4 is closer to, well, I don't want to say all the dwellings, but it's closer to more of them than that area out front is.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, desirable. That's one of the goals of the open space, is to have it
I
sort of
mean,
useful.
there is an opportunity to put it like behind one of the ponds, but again, those ponds are kind of close to wetlands, you know, where, as you can see, we're skirting the wetland finger. So the real area that you'd wanted to be between that property corner and where the wetland comes in close to the right of way there. So it doesn't leave us a lot of opportunity to, you know, cut a driveway through. I just don't want to dedicate it now and then have to, I mean, I guess we could. We could always dedicate it at this point and then amend it when we come back to amend the subdivision at a later time. But at the same time, I prefer to find a better solution for it now and then not rely on a change in the future to accommodate it.
Okay. All right, staff comments. You've got 17 of them. Do you have anything in particular that you didn't agree with?
No, actually,
wanted to
I
talk
don't.
about?
I mean, I highlighted several to discuss, but
I don't really have any issues with any of them. The biggest hurdle for me right now is just making sure that we can address the shoreline zone ordinance requirements, and that's the one that's causing me the most anxiety at this point in time.
I need just a minute to catch up here. Yeah, so I didn't, I just wanted to make sure I didn't have anything with the staff comments. Is the board in support of staff comments?
Yes, comply with what the staff has asked of you, yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I will open this application up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this application?
Yeah, I'm a pretty close abutting landowner. The comments about the streetlights, that would be a horrible idea. It's very rural, as you know, like you pointed out. Streetlights would be very, very bad. I'm kind of late to this project because I didn't make the first meeting. Somebody made a comment that we move these back from further from the existing dwellings, which is greatly appreciated. But we're gonna have more houses on here than this?
Potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, nothing to talk about there, but streetlights, please, don't put streetlights in there. It's a rural neighborhood. It's bad enough it's going in as it is. Let's not flood it with streetlights. I guess that's about all I can say right now.
Can we get your name, please?
Oh, yeah.
John Van Brunt,
Van Brunt,
Van Brunt, V-A-N-B-R-U-N-T.
thank you.
I did, actually. Yeah, so I've got something I wanted to bring up now that I didn't think of earlier, and I don't think it's in our list, is buffering, which we talked about on the site walk. And it sounded like your client was very amenable and open to doing buffering. He talked about kind of thick arborvitae hedges and whatnot. And I mean, we're not going to go back out and look at the site again, but there are, so I know it's away from the house that's directly next to the road, but there is another house down Campbell Shore Road, the first buildings will be behind, sort of. So I would like to see some good thick buffering in that area towards, like, I can't tell you exactly where, but
Sure.
you would know because you
Well,
can.
let me just, if I may.
Yeah.
We're showing the garage to the, what I believe the unit you're speaking of, right there.
Well, there's two, so that's one.
Yep.
And then there's also down and over.
So in this location,
Yeah.
yeah, there's another, there is another residence there.
So I would like to see buffering on the sight lines towards both of those.
Sure, I mean, what you see in yellow, the yellowish green, is the land that will not be disturbed. That's
Mhm.
all. We can,
Like to see buffering to those sight lines on your cut line, like what we talked about with your client.
okay. We can do that.
Yep, thank you. Public hearing, covered that, so discussion points, I think we're good with staff comments. We talked about the waiver, we'll vote on that a little bit later. We may have to talk more about monumentation and where we land. There is a staff comment that kind of speaks to that a little bit more, so I'm not sure where we're gonna land there. Any comments on the dwelling unit configuration from the board that we haven't talked about?
I have a different question.
Oh, sure.
I'm
Where
just,
you at?
I'm on the shoreland zoning question. Am I jumping too far ahead?
I don't know, I moved past that,
Okay.
so go ahead, we'll back up.
I heard from the applicant that he had some questions about that, and I'm just curious, what is the challenge? I
Okay.
think you have to comply with it, and I'm just curious what is, what the pickle is, I mean, for you.
We're in the stream protection district with the stream that comes from Allen Bog. It clips the back corner of the property, but its shoreline affects lots 1, 2, and 3. For us to get the frontage, I really can't get the frontage right now. So I'm going to have to reconfigure the lot lines to accommodate that. Frontage is 200 feet per dwelling unit. So that's gonna be a real difficult thing for us to accommodate. And then as far as the area goes, the Town of Gray's ordinance requires 80,000 square feet per unit within the shoreland zone. So, which is double the EP's requirement and also very difficult for us to accommodate. So I need to somehow get these lots away from the shoreland zone, create one that basically has all the shoreland in it, and make that one lot
Compliant.
in conformance. So I'll be meeting with code enforcement tomorrow. I made that appointment today. I forgot to invite you, but you're welcome to join at 3 o'clock. And then, so alternate approaches could be zoning board of appeals approach, but as you guys know, I prefer to find design solutions rather than ask for favors. So,
Well, if you were to drop a dwelling unit, that would solve all your problems also, right? No? It wouldn't? Oh,
No.
interesting, okay.
yeah, we'd have to, I mean, it really needs to be a configuration of the lots to somehow mitigate some of these things, and I'm not sure I can mitigate all of them.
Okay. Well,
Great question.
there's limits on what we can do, so.
Absolutely, totally understand.
Okay, yeah, thanks for adding that. Yeah, so 4 and 5, just the lot configuration and 5% open space. I guess, I mean, my comment is, I already made it, but much better configuration than the prior one. I guess I would say, you know, to me, a great use of that Lot 4 is open space. And everyone that attended the site walk would also appreciate that, I'm sure, based on the feedback that you got. So I guess you can think about that. I'll plant that seed and
Well, I
Again,
mean,
you can do-
I definitely entertain it. I'll definitely convey it along. I will tell you that this project costs are creeping up, not creeping up, they're astronomically jumping up, going from a paved road to a gravel road, curbing, the widening the road to accommodate the walkway has really increased the amount of wetland impact, which is really expensive at this point in time. The client's probably gonna pay $60,000 to $70,000 worth of wetland impact fees at this point. So we'll do our best. We always try, and I'll, one way or the other, we'll make it satisfying to the board.
well, you've also got a much nicer development than you had before, so there's that.
Well, thank you.
Anything from the board on the open space? Want to make sure I don't move too fast, so.
Yeah. I don't have anything else.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hammerhead and snow storage, I mean, to me, that one, I don't know, this comes up all the time. And it's typically the guidance of Public Works, and the board supports whatever
Yeah,
they're
I mean-
asking unless you have something specific.
Well, this is going to be built under the public rural easement, but we don't anticipate it being accepted by the town for plowing. So the applicant will be responsible for plowing and taking care of it. I really don't see too many concerns with that at this point in time. With the grades that we've created on our project design, I could see the plowing operation just plowing straight forward, pushing it off the end of the road, backing up, pushing what's in the hammerhead to the end of the hammerhead, and it would not impact the driveway plowing, access to the lot and so forth. So we haven't shown snow storage on the plan, but we will definitely designate areas for that so that those are clearly marked out. But I don't see any real concerns with the stormwater or snow plowing turnouts. You know, aside from, we're gonna basically tell people not to put them in the pond.
Right. So I'm guessing if you asked for feedback, they'd probably be happy to give it to you, even though it's not necessarily a town plowed road.
Oh, yes, certainly.
So we're not gonna design your storms. your
No,
snow
totally understand.
storage. So I don't have any comments on that.
No.
You guys, either of you? Okay. So phosphorus study, which staff in their comment, I don't remember which one, number 2, agree that it's not applicable, so I'm just gonna ask one more time if everyone agrees with that.
I do.
And I do as well. And then there's a few outs, the question would be, after waivers, whether it's complete or not, so 4, 7, and 14 are outstanding still, which is him addressing shoreline zoning, 5% the open space, and basically a road note, which is pretty minor, I think, so it's kind of 2 big ones. And I guess the question would be, do you agree that,
It's probably supposed to be 15, sorry,
Oh.
just correction.
okay,
Bigger number,
that makes
that's
more
messed up.
sense then.
Yes,
Let's see what
sorry.
15 is.
That's the DEP.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
That makes more sense. So that's submitting the DEP and Corps of Engineers submittals. I mean, it would be better if they had all that.
It seems like, given the issues with the shoreland zoning, that it feels a little bit early to do preliminary when
When they might not get it,
they've got some
or it
problems.
has to change.
Yeah. I don't know, normally when we do preliminary, it's pretty clear what steps need to take, like staff is gonna interact in some way, and I think there's more of a question mark for this than we normally have, which gives
gonna
me
say, I thought-
pause.
Let me get Jenya first.
Absolutely.
I agree that it's, we need to know more.
Yeah.
Dan?
I was just thinking from sort of point of information, if it's conditional on those being resolved, if they're resolved to the satisfaction of staff, and that's okay with the board, then it feels like that would be
Right.
a safe solution. If it's not resolved to the satisfaction of staff, then they wouldn't get the,
Right?
Yeah.
So the only hitch comes if it's resolved but requires changes, and it's something different than what we are preliminary approving.
Yep.
Yeah.
unless
mean-
you're worried about what staff will end up with for a potential solution.
I'm just thinking with the neighbors, being close and concerned, and depending on if they're reconfiguring the lots, that might change things in a way that makes it more compliant. I don't really know.
Yeah. So let me ask you, go
Sure,
ahead, you have a
shoot.
comment?
No, go ahead. Ask your question.
So what I was gonna ask you, and I'm not seeing that if we don't give you preliminary tonight, I don't believe it slows you down in any way, does it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So,
The only thing I would request would be that if, could we do preliminary and final in one meeting? My concern is that if we miss, say, next meeting, for whatever reason, I don't really want to go too much further, because we're getting into the tree clearing issue with, there's a window of tree clearing opportunity that we lose in the summertime. So if we don't get this project started off right away, it gets pushed way out. So that would be my only question is,
so we can and have done that.
Yep, and
But it means that you need to get it all right when
Yep.
you show up.
yep, no,
So-
that's our goal. I mean, honestly, we're on that path because of this extra week that we have this month. We're hoping to basically, like I said, get the hydro-geo this week. Everything kind of buttoned up, so I'm ready to resubmit final before the submission deadline for a new application. So hopefully that all comes together timely.
So, yeah, and we're not gonna typically do a final approval with a long list of conditions. so-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I prefer not to have preliminary approval with conditions, to be honest with you. It seems sort of, I don't mind final with conditions, those make sense, but I think as much as it may pain my client, I kind of agree with where you guys stand on that,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, so it's not gonna hold them up. We should.
That's good. Yeah,
We should
I like
wait.
that.
There's no
No
There's no
rush.
reason to proceed with that, given, as you stated, if it's, back and forth with staff, that's one thing, but when it's three kind of larger, you don't know what kind of feedback you're gonna get.
Sure.
That's
And I-
another
and I-
thing. Now, what we have done in the past, we had an applicant that was not getting responsiveness from the agency. So if that happens, we could, we'll do what we can to help you out with
Sure.
not holding you up.
I think in this
But
situation,
You haven't done it yet, so.
we're not needing a stormwater permit for this project. It's going to require a stormwater PBR, a NERPA PBR, and a Tier 1 NERPA permit for the wetland impact. I think the Army Corps is going to be our critical path with the Tier 1.
Mhm.
So, and quite frankly, would like to have those all in hand prior to final approval as well.
Okay.
I think you would, just point of order.
Yeah,
I
sure.
believe per the ordinance that you'd need to, the waiver of procedural steps to do final and prelim at the same time. You need to make one of the written findings of fact that no approvals are required from DEP, other than a permit by rule.
To do final.
So I think to do them both at the same time, to do the waiver of procedural steps. So I can certainly review that with Doug, or our attorney, as necessary, to make sure you're on a clear path, but the language sounds like you gotta have them in hand.
Yep.
That's the way I'm reading it,
Well,
just as a heads up.
What's the difference if they can't get to final one way or the other? It's all the same.
Right, like you can't make it conditional on them getting their DEP permit later.
Yeah,
Effectively.
or I think you can if I don't combine the meetings, because we've had that.
Right. Yeah, the waiver of
Interesting.
steps has that language in it, so I just want to
Okay.
make you aware of that.
Gotcha, thank you. Okay, so I think we will wait. That's your preference as well? You're okay with that?
I am.
Okay. So we got 2 waivers. I guess before we read a motion, I just kind of want to clarify what we're going to do on the monuments. So they're asking for allowing iron pins at all necessary corners and intersections in lieu of concrete. So I guess who determines what's necessary? We should work through that, or hopefully you're not going to ask us to define them, each one tonight.
No, I mean, we have them proposed in the plan, and if,
You already have,
yeah,
okay, you have.
we have
what
them
you would
proposed
like.
as we would like to
Okay.
install them. But we're fine with working with staff and presenting a revised plan with showing those specifically on there, to the liking of staff
Yeah.
as well.
So, and we always appreciate staff's position on this stuff. So Kristen, what do you and Doug say on this one?
Doug has always advised to take a hard line on the
Right.
stone monumentation, because in his 30 years experience,
Oh,
it's
excuse me,
limit.
I tried to dodge it and I just made it directly into the microphone, sorry.
Oh, excuse you. I think in his experience, having done this for a long time, he's seen pins move. So he always says, if you don't have something heavy duty in there that is hard to lug out into the woods and put deep into the ground, it can end up moving. And that's the concern, and that's why it's written that way in the ordinance. And certainly, I think the ordinance is also written so that the stone ones would have metal inside them, so you can
Right.
still find them with a metal detector. Obviously, the pins are less expensive, and they're also in there pretty well too, but are obviously easier to move if there's someone who is inclined to do so. There are some stone walls in the front property line of this parent parcel and in the rear, I think, and those come into play as well in your
Yeah,
considerations.
We're not going to
like a pin in a stone wall.
Right, we're not
Right.
going to require someone to put a concrete monument in the middle of a stone wall. Hopefully, we would drill a pin into that.
Yep, and the new lots that they're proposing to create, they would per ordinance be pinned. So
Right.
that pin is different from the block that defines the right of way for the road. Those are different elements, even though they're near each other. But the rear parent parcel, I think, is the bigger question, right? The 4 corners of the parent parcel, if you will, are proposed to be pins instead of big pieces of rock or concrete. So it's really a determination.
To-
If you feel it's a concern with them moving, if you feel that pins are sufficient, that's your purview.
Go ahead.
The only monuments we're proposing are these 2 out here on the parent parcel. The rest of the parcel has monumentation existing, quite actually numerous monumentation, too much, quite frankly. But again, we're willing to do whatever we need to. This isn't a big one. This isn't a deal breaker for us. So.
So, I don't know. I feel like we could grant the waiver with the contingency that the necessary is at the determination of staff as opposed to the applicant, so.
I have an
If-
idea.
Just to finish my thought, and happy to hear yours, that just, that gives them some flexibility, but it also respects Doug's position and feedback. It's not up to the applicant to deem what's necessary, but what's your thought?
I was thinking where there's, granite in the ground or something that makes it really hard. So this is what I was noodling on, is revising the waiver language to say, instead of at all necessary lot corners, to say at lot corners and intersections in lieu of concrete or granite markers where reasonably possible given ground conditions. So that if they can put if the ground conditions, there's a rock wall, it's granite under the ground, getting a granite marker in is going to be challenging, and then that would be a place to have an exception as determined in collaboration with staff. So you put
Yeah,
in
that's fine.
how does that seem?
Yep.
I think it's fair to recognize that sometimes the pins are not appropriate, but
Right?
yeah.
I think that
I've
sounds
had
fine
my
to me.
pins moved in my life before, so.
We've seen granite monuments move too.
Well, that's a
I have-
very
I have
determined
too.
person.
That's just a determined plow.
So I was gonna say, hit it with a tractor and it
Oh,
breaks
well.
right off.
This was not where plows
Okay.
were, so anyways,
Um,
okay.
I would be fine with that, revised waiver, if you wanted to make that motion, we
Okay.
could get through that piece.
Okay. I'm rewriting it already.
If you want to do them as one, I have it kind of put together as one motion proposed, if you wanted to do both waivers at the same time. I don't know if you want to discuss streetlights.
Yeah. I think we'll do both at the same time.
Okay. All right, I think I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Move to approve the following waivers for the proposal by SE Development, represented by DM Roma Consulting Engineers, to create a 3-lot subdivision on the 17.21 plus or minus acre parcel at 30 Campbell Shore Road at tax map 56 lot 17-19-02 in the rural residential agricultural zoning district and the shoreland zoning stream protection district. This proposal is subject to shoreland zoning standards and to major subdivision review. The waivers are the 401.13.1D requirement for stone or concrete monuments at all property corners, allowing iron pins, capped rebar at all necessary lot corner intersections in lieu of granite and concrete markers where appropriate, given ground conditions, in collaboration with staff. Secondly, the streetlight requirement of 401.13.15.c.4 to eliminate streetlights at both the intersection and dead end. While the application notes a request for the waiver to,
That's a no
I
for
don't
you.
think
okay,
we need
that's
that,
just,
yeah.
I was trying not
Sorry,
to.
should have been an italic.
Okay.
22-page memo, it's going to be a couple.
Dead end, period.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Okay, you got your waivers. So, we're not gonna find you complete, so you'll come back with your 3 additional items and go for completeness, preliminary, and final.
Thank you very much.
That's where we stop, unless you want something else from us.
Nope. So we're probably going to be in a preliminary and a separate meeting for final. Is that my understanding? We don't know yet. We'll figure that out when I get my permits.
You
Yeah.
can come back however you wish,
I appreciate
and
that.
we'll consider it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next. We should probably keep some of these for the next one.
Yeah, or you should keep all of them until it's done,
final.
yeah.
This especially, that's a lot of paper.
Okay, almost ready. Next one. This is Hannaford Brothers Site Plan Subdivision. This is a request by Hannaford Brothers Company LLC, represented by Goral Palmer Engineers, for major site plan and subdivision amendment review of a proposal to expand an existing retail trade use with a 12,239 plus or minus square foot addition and associated parking lot improvements to combine lots 1 and 3 and add development design for lot 2 on the 20-acre parcel at 130 Shaker Road, aka Route 26, map 27, lot 20-09-00 in the Business Transition 1 zoning district and partially in the Rural Residential and Agricultural zoning district. This proposal is subject to site plan amendment, subdivision amendment, and conditional use reviews, as well as the Business Transitional District standards and design guidelines. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Finnegan. I work in the real estate department at Hannaford Supermarkets. Here tonight to introduce the proposed expansion of Hannaford's existing store here in Gray. And I also have with me Doug Reynolds, Andrew Kerman, Randy Dunton, engineers from Grohl Palmer, and Jay Lord, who's a former Hannaford engineer and current consultant on the project. Thank you very much for having us and your time and energy in reviewing the project thus far. Very detailed recap in the agenda, and much appreciated. But before we sort of walk you through the technical aspects of the proposal, I wanted to just provide some background on the store and respond to a couple of items raised in the sketch plan review back in December. So our current store is roughly 36,000 square feet. This was our prototype in 2009 when we opened it. This size has a really great variety of products and services. It served us very well over the years. Depending on site and geography, we still build this. However, today in Gray, this store has proven to be a very strong player for Hannaford, doing more and more business every year, obviously a great thing. And after very careful consideration, we determined that the store really requires more than just a remodel. A larger store here will allow us to better serve customers in the community and greater community of Gray. So we're proposing to add roughly 12,000 square feet, as you can see in the infographic on the screen, to the right side of the existing store. So for those trying to visualize, this would be on the fresh produce side of the store. We'll also be adding a freezer to the back northwest corner of the store, and an additional truck dock to accommodate additional deliveries needed for a larger store. As mentioned in the agenda, we're asking for a waiver, relief from having 3 truck docks to just 2. Our experience indicates that our business operates smoothly with just 2. We don't need a third, and it would ultimately just result in more site development than we feel is necessary. There was also a comment about siting and capacity for our backup generator at sketch plan. We are upsizing the proposed generator from what is on the site today, but it is not meant to carry the load of the entire store. So none of the Hannaford stores are set up that way. It's basically based on a cost-benefit analysis. So the size we're proposing is very standard to the rest of our 49,000 square foot prototype stores in the portfolio, as well as the placement, which was also a note, I know, by staff. But I think the plan shows that the generator looks a little closer to the first truck than it would be in real life. There'll be bollards protecting it, but all to say we have not had issues with this at other locations in a similar siting. We've also proposed an expansion of the current parking lot, as you can see here. The addition includes a new store entrance, which will serve as sort of the main entrance going forward. So in order to both meet code and to create convenient parking in front of this new entrance, we've added an additional 42 spaces. And it was noted in the staff comments, but parking is at a premium here in seasonal months. So although parking is not, the parking lot's not full 12 months out of the year, it is necessary for us to have a parking lot that will hold our full customer base, which does show up a significant portion of the year. I would also just note that in 2009, when we built our site, It was sized and built to accommodate higher impervious stormwater septic capacities because of the 2 out parcels that were included in the permitting, and we are staying below, and in some cases well below, those original thresholds in this proposal. We've also proposed landscaping, buffering, and other site design to be generally consistent with what's existing today. So the expansion presents sort of a harmonious extension of what's already there today. Just a quick mention, Hannaford did look at remodeling the store versus expanding it. The great news here is that expanding versus remodeling are not mutually exclusive endeavors for us, so you'll see kind of the great benefits of both. But I also just want to point out that the expansion, it really isn't entirely dependent on what we'd call net new customers. There certainly will be incrementally new, more shoppers, or that's the hope. It helps us pay for this project, but the additional square footage also provides an expanded offering and smoother operations as a company. And the goal here is both increasing basket size of our existing shoppers, as well as drawing some net new customers to the store, likely customers who are choosing a larger store currently to do their shop. Just a final piece I did want to speak to also is the conceptual layout shown on lot 2, so out front here, sort of the out parcel. The agenda for tonight's meeting details our sentiments here very well, but I just want to reiterate that what we are showing is a conceptual building. Hannaford has not yet identified a user or a tenant. The concept we're showing is the maximum that is allowable under the existing permits that we have at the site. And we're really responding to what we were asked to do at sketch plan and the pre-meeting with the town. It's understood that if a tenant is selected, further town review is required for final approval. And I think best case scenario for Hannaford and the town is that we find a quality and complementary tenant to join us there. But please rest assured that Hannaford has no intention of degrading the overall site to achieve that. So I know traffic is very, very important, and it's going to come up tonight. Believe me, it's very important to us too. So I just want to be clear that we are showing what could be permitted here, could be done here, but when it comes to identifying a tenant, we will only consider a user that we feel does not compromise our top priority, which is the supermarket. This will likely be a scaled back version in the end product versus what we're showing. So I think with that, I can answer any questions for you. Doug can answer any technical questions, unless you want to say anything, Doug, above and beyond.
Again, just real quickly, again, Doug Reynolds with Goral Palmer. I know you're going to ask the question, but we had comments from Mr. Roberge relative to engineering comments, and we take no exception to any of those. And as well as staff comments to date. Everything's been great. Kristen's been great. Doug's been great. We look forward to hearing from you, and we'll go over whatever you want to go over.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So it's great to see that people are choosing to do business in Gray and that companies are willing to reinvest back. So I'm hopeful that this is contagious. So that's good news. Any initial questions from the board before we go through the details, just on the presentation? Okay. So we'll just go through this then step by step. So there's a couple of requested waivers. One is groundwater impact analysis, which staff in their comment number, which number? Is it 2, I think? Right, so 2, they are in agreement that that is not necessary. And then the second one, as they mentioned, is the requirement for 3 loading bays. Based on experience, they're happy with 2. So I guess, Kristen, that's interesting. So our ordinance requires 3?
Yes, it's per
Because of the
square footage.
of retail?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, to me, if Hannaford is obviously professional at receiving produce and deliveries, and they think they can do it with 2. I don't think we should require 3.
Yep.
So I guess we'll vote later, but I would be fine with both of those waivers.
Yep,
Same,
absolutely.
yeah.
Okay.
Mr.
So,
Chair,
yes.
can I ask a question about groundwater?
Sure.
On your groundwater, on your current permit, is there any requirement to test for pollutants at all, like salt or anything else, or is it strictly just a capacity? Excuse my ignorance.
Again, it's a permit from 2008 from the DEP.
Yeah,
And again, what it related to is the stormwater control. All the flow from our site is going to the ponds in the back. And those are permitted as part of the original permit. Again, I'd have to double check whether it was anything relative to pollutants.
we struggle with salt on the bypass. And I know your ponds flow down towards the turnpike, and groundwater there flows towards the wellhead. You use a considerable amount of salt, I know, on your parking lot, and all of that flows down in that direction. I just didn't know if there was any requirement to monitor that, that's all.
No.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, good question, thank you. Okay, so consulting engineer comments. Applicant has already indicated they are okay with all of them. Anything additional from the board? Or shall we just let them continue to work it out?
I think that sounds good.
Would be my thought as well. Staff did have 2 of the comments they highlighted. So Kristen, maybe if you wanted to cover any particular concerns of staff with these 2?
Related to the engineering comments?
Yes.
Yep, yeah, I just wanted to highlight, update for the board, that the consulting engineer had flagged a concern for the island for every 40 spaces, which is part of the zoning ordinance, but this is subject to the business transitional 1 performance standards, which were actually written when the store came to town, and those contemplated up to 65 parking spaces without a landscaped island for the building of 20,000 square feet or more. So it's kind of within this district, the performance standards are a little bit different and are above, allow more than the regular zoning ordinance. So he was looking at that piece. So we're good with parking. So just in case that caught your eye, I just wanted to clarify that
So
for you.
nothing new, you're just calling special attention to those?
Yeah, just making
Yeah.
sure that we're clear that piece gets overridden effectively by the BT1 standards that the town passed. And then again, that a good deal of his comments are with regard to Lot 2 plans, which we'll be holding on to. So when they come back with a tenant, all of that will come back. We can dig back into that for your consideration, whatever still applies.
Okay. Comments per town staff. Did either of you have anything related to staff requests that you wanted to cover?
Again, no, I mean, we worked well with staff. Again, one of your big items at the sketch plan meeting was the traffic, and, wow, I lost Tim's last name, but Public Works Director, Tim Estes, he stated it perfectly, in support of us, and that, we'll look at it afterwards and, see if there's anything we can do to the intersection, so. Again, that's, the rest of the staff comments are, we've talked about most of them already. And then, yeah, again, a lot of them are relative to Lot 2. We're good with them.
Okay. Does the board have any comments on staff comments?
I do not.
Kenya?
No, not really.
So you brought up my one, Doug, I'm gonna bring it up again. This is my
You
chance.
didn't forget?
I didn't forget.
Come on,
I
dude.
wouldn't. So, comments 5 from staff. And I certainly appreciate, it's good that you're actually more in compliance than less, and I appreciate that. However, this is maybe more directed for you, Dan, and council. I really wish we could do something about the traffic there, and this is just a good opportunity to talk about it, if anything. I know it's not your problem, but I would also contend that there are times of the day when you are losing business because the traffic is so bad, because I can promise you that I would never go up to that store and shop at 4:30 on a Friday, or any 5 o'clock on any night when the bypass is backed up all the way to Hannaford.
Still shopping safe down here.
Is also North Wyndham.
But you're closer.
But I guess my point is, it's beneficial to, I think, you as well, if there were an improved situation there, and I 100% appreciate it's not your problem. I'm not trying to burden you with it, but I think you've got an opportunity to help make it better. It's just, to me, like, in the morning when that intersection is backed up southbound to Dry Mills and northbound most nights and Friday nights all the way to the turnpike, and it's supposed to be a bypass, it's not working right.
Well, in
And-
fairness, NDOT told us when they built the bypass that we had 10 years before traffic
Yeah.
became what it was before they built the bypass, and welcome to the future.
Mhm.
We've dreamed for decades of another way into the school complex at Libby Hill, just to create some sort of a relief valve for that intersection. Plans and ideas come and go. There's hope someday it'll stick. There is a plan to create an emergency exit from the high school, but it won't do anything to relieve this issue. And there'll also be a crosswalk built at the end of Adler Senior Drive there for high school students at one point, when we redo the sidewalks on Libby Hill. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Flying cars.
I have a hard time believing it can't be improved, and I'm more hopeful, I think, than others. Like, we should at least try. I mean, anecdotally, I remember a time when those lights were all flashing yellow, and that's the best it ever worked. And there are many people that will tell you that. So,
Sadly, the tradition of kids taking school buses has faded. That contributes to the issue too. But right now, I guess we're just playing with the cards we're dealt. I think that programming is, I know that they have tied together the lights, not only at Libby Hill, but at North Raymond Road, in an attempt to, and I think even there's been talk about doing it where the bypass intersects with the turnpike, to just try and alleviate things there. But there are simply times of day on certain days of the week where there's as many cars as there is space, and I don't think changing the lights is gonna do that. We've talked about widening 26 in the past, but that's not a particularly popular solution for the people that live along that stretch of road, understandably. We're open to good, any ideas that you can come up with, Dan?
well, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I am hard pressed to believe that leaving those lights longer, going green, north and south, wouldn't make things better. But I'm taking us off topic. This was our chance to talk about it. So for everyone, and it's maybe just one person watching at home, you know the planning board tried, and when you see construction going on at Hannaford,
We mentioned it.
we mentioned it, we tried to do our best.
We're still trying, we always try, we just can't promise anything right now.
So
It's been good therapy, other than that.
so yeah, I'll stop. I gave it my all. Okay. public hearing. This is a great time to open it to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this agenda item? Please.
Hi, my name is June Timpany. My husband is over there, and he inherited his parents' home, which is on Spruce Drive, which is right there in the middle of all that traffic. The problem is, it isn't just 5 o'clock. It's actually probably all day, for the most part. And what we have encountered is it's not just that, it's from June until September as well. So add that whole factor in. We can't even get out when we try to go out onto Spruce Drive. We have to go around the development and go out down that way. And if we're looking to go south, we actually have to turn in a left turn further down to come back and go south. And that's what we've encountered, and we have just been looking into living in the home, because we are going under construction with it soon, and it's making me rethink, do we really want to do this? And I know I can't be the only one about this. That whole area should be voicing, I'm sure, if they haven't already. And that's just something that definitely the traffic is a problem for those who have lived there or who plan to live there in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and just in case you didn't quite follow, we're only reviewing within the context of this project, and regarding traffic, the project is still operating within their Maine DOT permit allocation, basically. So, long story short, there's nothing we can do here about it. But Dan McGuire at the end is the council liaison, and I would encourage you to follow up with the council, and perhaps they can do work with MDOT and voice your and others' concerns, and maybe we get somewhere.
The more people that contact us, the more like it makes it easier for us when we're talking to the Maine Department of Transportation to say, it's just not the 5 of us counselors whining at you. We have this group of people behind us who want to do this. One of the most recent ideas that's been kicked around is to basically build a third lane down the middle of 26. It would widen it a little bit, but it would give people who are making a turn space to get off and allow the cars to continue past on either side. Doesn't mean you wait any less for an opportunity to turn, but it would alleviate some of the congestion. But yes, anybody else that you speak to, I encourage them to get in touch with the council too, please.
Anybody else? Anybody online?
No.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing then. All right, so conditional use. Do we have a motion?
I move to find the conditional use application complete and approve the conditional use for a request by Hannaford Row Co. LLC for major site plan and subdivision amendment review of a proposal to expand an existing retail trade use with a 12,239 plus or minus square foot addition and associated parking lot improvements, combine lots 1 and 3, and add conceptual development design for lot 2 on the 20-acre parcel at 130 Shaker Road, Route 26, map 27, lot 20-09-00 in the business transitional-1 zoning district and partially in the rural residential and agricultural zoning district. This proposal is subject to site plan amendment, subdivision amendment, and conditional use reviews, as well as the business transitional district standards and design guidelines.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I suppose you can discuss.
If none of you have anything else, you first.
Go ahead. None of us have any.
On section 12 of the Girl Palmer submission here, they have the elevation, drawings of the elevations. I don't know what the design standards, I don't know them chapter and verse. I just have to say personally, I'm kind of disappointed in the direction that the design of the building's gone. Granted, the elevation is very flat. I'm assuming it's got a little more depth to the facade than this drawing shows. But I think the sort of box store, Old West sort of theme of the construction is kind of disappointing for what we've got now. Frankly, it's a step backwards, I think. I don't know if this is like the design now, this is sort of what you're doing, but I can appreciate that this is probably less expensive to build than the existing structure. But it is kind of disappointing from a design standpoint.
This facade is pretty good.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you unless you're at the podium.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond that this is fairly prototypical. This is pretty standard. We love to build some of the more aesthetically pleasing facades that we built in years past, but these projects are really challenging to pencil, let alone sometimes dress them up as much as we like. So I think he's gonna find it here.
It's like the very end.
It's not,
it's the
this
very
does
end.
not deviate much
Such a
from
total.
sort of what we're building in other states,
Yeah,
other
it's-
geographies.
It really is a shame. I mean, I don't think it holds a candle to the current design of the store. Even just in the color and the facade and the way it just feels like it could be done more imaginatively, but not more expensively. But if it meets those standards, then I'm all done talking about it. It is a disappointment, though, I will say.
Yeah, the colors are our color, there are standard colors. I don't necessarily disagree that depending on which color we use more of, it will sometimes can give a different look, but this, what's called colonial yellow and intellectual gray, those are the colors that we, our brand stand, that's our brand
And
standard.
it's not really even the color. I mean, the color of the existing store uses, some of those same,
Yeah,
some
yep,
of those same colors.
it does,
But
a
just,
bit more yellow.
I mean, to some extent, it's even plainer than the one that you're showing. But it looks like Walmart or, a big box store, to be honest with you. And it's not, I don't think, a positive addition to the architecture of town. It is disappointing that way. It's something for the council to work on. If this is acceptable with the design standards, then I think we have some work to do with our design standards.
The peaked roof looks like the biggest change.
Yeah.
It is a big part.
No, it's
I mean, that plus
The
the way the color is
glaze.
broken up, it's just applied differently.
Yep, that's a great comment, and I think, I hate to give you a homework assignment, Kristen, but I'm going to. Well, I wonder out loud whether that design was part of the original approval of the project or not, as opposed to their.
They're doing a new main entryway, so the.
No, what I'm saying is, just to clarify, that I think this project preceded me, but I know that the applicant and the board did a lot of work and back and forth on the approval. So I think, to Dan's point, I think it's worth a bit of research to make sure that, that peaked roof, whatever that kind of New England style, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
wasn't some type of, I'm talking specific to the project, whether it was a specific.
Well, this was written specific to that project anyway, so it's all relevant.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe it's something that I missed regarding one of the BT1 standards. There are materials, there are colors. I didn't find anything that didn't match that.
I mean, I understand why you're removing the peaked roof, because if you left that there, everybody would think that was the entrance. then you're moving the entrance. So I understand why you've done what you've done, but I'm actually kind of surprised, to be honest with you. I would
Yeah, I'm
think
not
you folks have the wherewithal to come up with something a little more creative than that without having to expend a whole lot of extra money.
Yeah, it says flat roof lines are allowed, provided the design creates no horizontal surface greater than 100 feet in length without a break. And this does have
Yeah, it
sections.
does, yeah.
I can certainly review it in more depth if it's something you want me to follow up on with them.
No, I think it, I'm not doubting that it meets the standard, just I think we need to change the standard if this is a design that's acceptable.
I happened to work for Hannaford in your role a long time ago, and my guess is that this peak was part of Hannaford's prototype. My
It was in the
recollection.
past,
So
yeah. The bump outs that we see today, the matching bump outs where we have signage on both kind of architecturally, that is what we've done for several
used to be
years.
your request,
It
as
was.
opposed to something that Gray requested and required, that it was just what you offered. And now what you're saying is that that isn't part of what you offer, it's this
Yeah,
with all
our
the
standard is what we've presented
Gotcha.
today. I guess I would also add, as much as anything, we've spent a lot of time and effort inside the store, and I know that to some extent we like to see when you drive by, maybe the way it looks today, but the fixture print is going to be greatly improved. Our produce is getting a lot larger. We're getting more center store aisles. They're redoing the bathrooms. They'll touch every part of the store. Design and decor inside and I know this is a site plan approval, so it doesn't really matter. But the truth is, we spent a lot of time and money, and we will rather, on the experience inside. And to some extent, again, that is how we pay for these. It's really challenging to make projects like these work, and that's how we're able to do it. Is sometimes, again, this isn't really compromising. This is our prototype, but I guess all to say, we spent a lot of time ensuring that the interior will be a great improvement from what it is today.
I don't think it's an either or kind of thing myself personally, but I appreciate the fact you're doing a great job, but as part of being a part of the community, being something that people see every day, whether they go into Hannaford or not, that's part of the design too. And I think sacrificing the exterior design, even if the inside looks great, from just a personal standpoint, it's not an either or for me. But I hear what you're saying, and we don't need to talk about it anymore because it's not going to change.
Yeah. You make a good, just to close the discussion out, you make a good point. Like, design standards have been a challenge for us in the past, particularly with prototype stores, because they come in with what they want to build and it's a blueprint, and we've had opportunities to make a few things better that have come and gone because we had no way to do it, so.
We try not to write too many rules so that people
Right.
have the flexibility to do what they want, but then when we get something like this, we wish we wrote more.
Right. Okay. Back to business. So we are at a vote for a conditional use, having had the motion and the second and the discussion. So all in favor of the finding of conditional use? That's unanimous. All right, I think we've covered most, if not all, of these discussion points, but I'm just gonna walk through them. So buffering and landscaping, and this is only specific to Lot 1, because Lot 2 is a prototypical description, but they're not building it, so good with that? Yep, okay. Groundwater, we talked about and agreed that we're good on that, and we'll vote a little bit later. Same thing on the 3 loading bays. Okay, I think we have agreed with all the staff recommendations, but Kristen, you specifically called this one out, so anything in particular you wanted to raise? I think we're already in agreement, but.
I think, yeah, currently, this was part of the photographs from the sketch plan submittal. I don't think are part of this submittal, but there were pictures of the area, like right after you take the right into the property, that there's an area off to the side that's usually has a bunch of potholes and it's kind of muddy next to where the septic system is in the front. And that's, seems like it's pretty heavily used now and maybe more so going forward. So that the recommendation from staff was that that be paved in some way. It looks like it may have been some level of gravel existing, but it's pretty beat up. It doesn't seem like it holds up because it ends up being people with like snowmobile trailers or RVs or whatever else, and then other people. So it gets pretty beat up. So the recommendation was to pave it. So there's that pull-off area, which may come into play once Lot 2 gets developed too, is maybe some sort of queuing area, but that would be for further discussion. But the reason it's flagged for you guys is because it would obviously have a significant impact on the applicant, not only paving costs, but also potentially the DEP permitting. So I didn't know it might be an opportunity for Doug to speak to that and for your consideration. And it's a bigger ticket item, so that's why it's raised to you.
Oh,
So Doug didn't, hold on. So previously did not have any concerns with staff comments, but he's at the podium, so.
I apologize, we did neglect to mention that one. What actually our intent is to do is to remove that gravel section and regrass it, if that's, would be acceptable to the board, because again, they're of the opinion that, Hannaford is of the opinion that if we do have this bigger parking lot, there'll be spaces available for double trailers. Again, if somebody wants to have a trailer, they can come in and pull into 2 of these spaces, and not have any of that parking up there at the top at all. Because again, it does become a maintenance issue, and again, we don't want to become the person that's not quite to camp yet and wants to come and sleep for a few hours type situation. So we don't want to invite that. So our proposal is to remove that and bring that back to grass.
I'm sure it was originally grass, right?
It was, and that pavement was, I mean, the gravel was put there because people were just parking there, and then it got sloppy, and they put gravel in because it was sloppy, and we didn't have a permit to expand that gravel area. So again, the intent is to remove that as part of this project.
So back to grass and try again.
Back to grass and try again. Maybe we'll put some, big rocks there or something.
Yeah, I feel like staff comment on that, not knowing that until now, I think it would, obviously it's been an ongoing problem. So yeah, some sort of boulders or planting, something to discourage people,
Right.
because it's gonna happen again.
Yep.
That would be the
I
concern.
mean, like paving it or whatever is not a good idea, but
Yeah.
I do wonder what's going to stop it from happening again. You're going to have people towing boats and whatever.
18-wheelers quite often.
18 wheels? Yep.
I mean, if you really want to stop it, you would have like a split rail fence or some boulders or
It's used for
trees, buffering.
You want to go forward?
What'd you say? Sorry.
It's used for snow.
Oh, right.
I
Yeah.
mean, you could put large stones there and space them such that you could plow it between them and still discourage parking.
So it doesn't happen again and again, otherwise it's the same issue.
A guardrail kind of a thing.
We can do rocks and stuff. That'd be
Being
good.
used for snow storage.
They're saying we can offer rocks.
Secret consultation.
Properly spaced boulders to
Several large ones or tens of thousands of
really,
small
really
ones?
small ones. Yeah.
Removable ones.
I mean, to me, this is like.
It
sort of a-
it
it's a new-
happens. It
it's a new
happens
problem.
everywhere.
You want your site to look nice?
Yeah. Yeah.
And other than hardscaping it with something that's, allows water through and will still grow grass, that's an expense, obviously.
I mean, I'm not sure how into like requiring a lot here I am.
No, I just.
Like,
It needs to go back to grass.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's got to go back to grass. Beyond that, I don't,
Yeah.
like,
It's up to us.
Up to you guys, is
Yep.
my opinion.
Thank you.
I guess we're good with that. And yes, I think we all agree that the Lot 2 design is later. We're not, it's conceptual at this point. We're considering it conceptual, so you would need to come back for anything specific to that, yes?
Yes.
Oh, look, Doug, it's back again.
You said we were done with that subject.
No additional comments on traffic.
Been commented to death.
Yes. Generator, you already mentioned what you're doing. I don't have any additional comments. Doesn't look like the board does either. So I think we are at draft motion for approval. Oh, for the waivers, yep. Right, we haven't gotten to that. Thank you.
I'm ready.
Go for it.
Move to approve the following waivers for the application by Hannaford Grow Co. LLC for major site plan and subdivision amendment review of the proposal to expand an existing retail trade use with a 12,239 plus or minus square foot addition and associated parking lot improvements, combine lots 1 and 3, and add a conceptual development design for lot 2 on the 20-acre parcel at 130 Shaker Road, Route 26, map 27, lot 20-09-00 in the business transition 1-1 zoning district and partially in the rural residential and agricultural zoning district. This proposal is subject to site plan amendment, subdivision amendment, and conditional use reviews, as well as the business transitional district standards and design guidelines. The waivers are groundwater impact analysis, section 402-.10.10.d.4 and 402.10.11.J due to not being applicable for the proposed amendment. Requirement and second waiver requirement for 3 off-street loading bays per 402.10.11.B10.A, allowing instead 2 bays and 1 vendor delivery area based on business use and experience to date.
So a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? That one's unanimous. Okay, we've got, next up would be finding of completeness. Do we have a motion for that?
We do. Move to find the application by Hannaford Grow Co. LLC complete per 401.7.1E. This proposal is a request for major site plan and subdivision amendment review of a proposal to expand an existing retail trade use with a 12,239 plus or minus square foot addition and associated parking lot improvements, combine lots 1 and 3, and add conceptual development design for lot 2 on the 20-acre parcel at 130 Shaker Road, Route 26, map 27, lot 20-09-00 in the business transition -1 zoning district and partially in the rural residential and agricultural zoning district. This proposal is subject to site plan amendment, subdivision amendment, and conditional use reviews, as well as the business transition district standards and design guidelines.
Is there a second on that one?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? And that's unanimous once more. Okay, we got one more.
All right.
Motion for approval.
Move to approve the application by Hannaford Grow Co. LLC, represented by Goral Palmer Engineers, for major site plan and subdivision amendment review of the proposal to expand an existing retail trade use with a 12,239 plus or minus square foot addition and associated parking lot improvements, combine lots 1 and 3, and add development design for lot 2 on the 20-acre parcel at 130 Shaker Road, Route 26, map 27, lot 20-09-00 in the business transitional 1 zoning district and partially in the rural residential and agricultural zoning district. This proposal is subject to site plan amendment, subdivision amendment, conditional use reviews, as well as the business transition district standards and design guidelines. This approval is subject to the following conditions numbered 1 through 7 included in the board materials and memo for this project.
A second on that.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? And that is unanimous as well. Welcome to Gray again.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, can I make just a really quick comment?
Sure, absolutely.
I just, for anybody who isn't familiar with what the planning board is doing now, and with the help of the town planner, Kristen, and the planning staff, it sounds probably like one of those speed talkers at the end of a commercial you hear on the radio or on television. But the planning board is creating binding agreements with all of these people. And so that attention to detail is not gone unnoticed by the council certainly, and by anybody else who understands how this works. So I just want to thank you for the effort.
Yes, in past years, this meeting might have taken 4 or 5 hours. So Kristen and I have it down to a pretty good process. So appreciate all your help. It definitely does not go unnoticed.
And when you
because
get to this point, it may look like the planning board is just kind of, without any further discussion, just saying, yep, and voting it through.
Right.
This isn't the first rodeo for any project.
Yep.
And so unless you follow the whole project through, you're going to miss a lot of that discussion. So I just don't want anybody getting the wrong idea that they're just in a hurry to get home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing that. And I am trying to move quickly and efficiently, so I don't want to give that perception either. So thank you. All right, so we've got one more topic. I will say I'm good to keep going. We've been at it for 2 hours. If anyone feels like we need like a 5-minute break, happy to do that.
Keep working.
All right, and keep rolling.
Keep working.
All right, next up is, this is Jalbert Brothers site plan, a request by Jalbert Brothers LLC, represented by Acorn Engineering, for a site plan review of a proposal to redevelop the site at 15 Portland Road to add a retail trade use with an accessory office use on the 2.45 plus or minus acre property at tax map 43. Lot 404-017-000 in the Village Center zoning district. This proposal is subject to major site plan review and village design standards. All right, welcome to the podium.
Sorry, am I good?
You're on.
Good to start. Okay, thank you. I was distracted. My name's Nate Holt. I work for Acorn Engineering. I'm a civil engineer. We did the site design and permitting for this project. Justin Jalbert, one of the owners, is missing tonight. He came down with a sickness, so he's unable to attend. But we have two other members from ownership with us tonight, as well as Evan Carroll, who is the project architect. We were before you at the last hearing, so we made this quick turnaround, so I think the board will be still relatively familiar with the project. We appreciate you getting us on tonight. We'll try and keep this presentation relatively brief, but touch on the key points and then open it up for a Q&A afterwards. But yeah, with that said, the property is located at 15 Portland Road. It's a 2.4 acre lot. There are 2 buildings currently on site. There's the brick building, kind of near the bottom left-hand corner of the property, which was formerly a single-family home, as well as the warehouse building above that, that formerly had the Maine Ladder and Staging Company use in that. There are 3 curb cuts on the site currently. So the project proposes to renovate the market building, which is shown in that yellow hatch, with associated site improvements with the parking lot, paved access ways, outdoor seating areas. One of the big highlights of this project is closing one of the 3 curb cuts shown on the previous slide. We just feel that's a great win for this project, given its proximity to the village center. And then just talking a little bit more about the nitty-gritty details of the site, and changes that have been implemented since you've last seen this project. We're showing a total of 17 parking stalls in the parking lot. We were able to increase the drive aisle width to 24 feet all around, so we're no longer requesting a waiver, and we felt like we were able to accomplish this without losing any of the site goals with outdoor seating area, green space. We have increased our parking count from 15 to 17 from the past iteration. These additional 2 stalls come in the form of employee parking that are shown on the top left bend of the parking lot. We were able to kind of fit these into the fabric of the site without unnecessary impervious area, and kind of still keeping the keystone outdoor seating piece that we're really proud of. We have prepared turning exhibits just showing the kind of the maneuvers to get in and out of those sites, which work cleanly. Those stalls also are signed for employee parking only and meet the town's dimensional standards. We received the town staff comments as well as the board's feedback on wayfinding and just better, signaling internally through the site. So we've got a number of measures that we're implementing with striping, directional arrows. We've added a sign signaling that there's ADA parking to the top left-hand side of the site, and then just trying to better delineate that interface between the paved drive aisle and the gravel parking lot for the warehouse. We're showing striping that. It's might be tough to see, but there's a delivery vehicles only stenciling right at that connection, as well as authorized vehicles only sign facing both directions. So that's really intended to signal to those passenger cars that this connection is really there just for delivery vehicles and emergency access circulation purposes, but we want to kind of limit that cut-through circulation. And then we're kind of rounding out the site. We've provided a formal landscaping plan, which features buffering along Portland Road in the parking lot, a number of shade tree opportunities by the outdoor seating areas, and just some plantings around the building and the rain garden to pretty up the site. We have prepared a photometric plan. There's a number of light poles around the parking area for safe levels and good vehicle circulation. There's some bollards by the pedestrian walkways into the building. And then we also are showing string lights on the pergola structure that's in that kind of center island to the top left-hand side of the parking lot. That technically isn't downlit lighting, but given our aggressive landscaping plan, we don't expect there to be, a significant amount of upwards lighting cast from that area, but we do want to note that, and it appears in the staff comments. We have shown 2 EV chargers to the top right-hand side of the parking lot, and then have formalized our stormwater calculations and sized the rain garden to the bottom right-hand side of the property, which meets town standards, and we feel this is a really significant improvement from the existing condition and something we're proud of. I think that touches on kind of this big site changes we want to address. We've reviewed all of the town staff and engineering comments. We're comfortable with those comments. We feel we can provide written responses to those, and there won't be any changes to the site plan. From that, I do want to note 2 clarifications on the traffic end from the engineering review. There was one error in citing the ordinance from the reviewer. We had a follow-up email after they published their comments. They cited a section of the ordinance that applies for subdivision projects. Any development that generates 140 trips per day for a subdivision would require additional analysis. They've clarified that because this is a site plan, that threshold wouldn't apply to us. The engineering reviewer also requested we utilize a different land use classification to estimate what the traffic generation would be from this project. This wasn't a huge surprise, and it's somewhat standard on these types of projects. It's difficult to cleanly fit a use like this into a predetermined study. It's not a Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's where those establishments have been more thoroughly studied and the numbers are clean. This is a little bit more of a interpretation and reading the definitions type of thing. But kind of in summary, when we submitted our application, we used a high turnover restaurant to classify the development, which, I mean, still doesn't really capture the market use, but we felt it was conservative and there was really good supporting data behind it. There's a high number of studies, so we felt good using that and we could feel confident that we're going with a conservative approach. The engineering reviewer has requested that we look at a fast food establishment without a drive-through to generate or to estimate the traffic generation. And you know, I think it's certainly up for interpretation the best way to classify it, but we've ran the calculation using both, and we're well under the 100 peak hour trips that would require a DOT permit. We would be at 35 based on the high turnover restaurant and 53 with the fast food. So we're just about halfway there. So we don't see there being any changes to the site plan, regardless how you cut it. I think with that said, that kind of rounds out things. I have some slides on the building design more if the board would like to see that, but we kind of want to spare the time and just open it up for questions.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it looks to me like you addressed pretty much, if not everything we talked about last time. Just the one thing that's still sort of an open question for me is that access to the back lot and just like the intended use. Like I get you've got it striped off now, but like what's the theory on like signage for access to that facility? Like if someone's delivering something there, like where are they expected to come in? Is it on the other driveway? Is it through that parking lot? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I get you don't want to close it off permanently, but I'm just surprised you don't have like a temporary gate or something, because it's like two totally different uses.
Yeah, no, and I don't know if you guys wanted to touch on it, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think kind of the intent is, so the kitchen area, which is the top left-hand side of the market building, that is where the intent is to have the deliveries. So, you know, the truck would come in through the paved drive aisle, pull in, and then kind of utilize that connection to maneuver. I mean, I think, you know, I think
So they're servicing this site by pulling in and backing up. Basically.
Right, so there is kind of that cross connection between the two.
Okay. Any initial thoughts or feedback or questions?
I just want to say I love the landscaping. That's really, really nice.
Mhm.
And while I am a big fan of the dark skies and the no lights, I think the types of low lumen lights, those don't trouble me, especially in this area where gray plazas shine like the sun anyways. I don't think you could ever make an impact in the area, but given the lights happening over there. So I'm good with that. I think you really listen to us, and I appreciate that. This is very exciting. I can't wait to come. Open soon.
Jenya?
Well, it's one of the old, not historic, but buildings like in gray. And I was looking on it like the windows in a pretty bad shape, but they're original, wooden like from that time. So it will be really sad to see if it will be like plastic windows, we'll be replacing them. I mean, it will lose everything pretty much, all the charm like it has right now. So I think like we should
Yeah, well, that's for them to decide, not us.
keep an eye on it. So my question is like, you guys will have kitchen, and how many people you expect you design like for the people who will actually come to eat? How many people do you expect to have a day?
What's the question?
Tables,
Tables or
seats.
seats, yeah.
It's not
If you have to
It's
step
not
up to the
seating.
podium.
Can you just say?
No seating.
Okay,
Thank you.
so it's
A to go?
Well, the thing is, like, they will have kitchen, they have grease lake. What are you guys going to do with the septic system for that area?
There's an external grease trap, but we do have a new septic system that's been
You
designed.
guys going to do pre-treatment?
Yeah, we'll have 2 septic tanks with a grease trap prior to the leach field, yes.
The
Yep.
field. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So waivers, they had previously requested one and designed the width of the parking lot and drive aisle to not require that. I believe I heard the applicant say you were in agreement with both the consulting engineer and staff comments, right?
Yep.
Yep. So I am as well. Does the rest of the board have anything
Nope.
related to either of
Nope.
those?
Not gonna lie.
Okay. So next up is, sure, go ahead.
I would mention one thing regarding the
Okay.
staff comment,
Yep.
number 1 from the fire chief.
Okay.
We're just talking about the fire alarm system. I had a phone call with him, and the exact nature of that requirement is subject to our fire marshal permit. So that comment isn't exactly complete. That's all.
So,
There will be a
I guess-
sprinkler system.
so, all right, I guess I'm not following your comment. Are you saying the chief's feedback is inconsistent with what will be in your permit, or?
The chief's feedback is inconsistent with specific NFPA 101 language. And he just said that he would need to look at it more when I gave him more information. And that's part of the building permit. That's not part of the planning approval. So,
Okay. Go ahead.
So it sounds like comment number 1 needs to be amended, because what you're saying is that the applicant will need to install a compliant fire suppression system as opposed to a full commercial alarm system in a Knox box. Are you saying that it's possible that, I'm trying to figure out how to
Yeah,
amend
that-
the comment.
The nature of the required system, the compliant required system, will be determined as part of the building permit approval and part of the fire marshal's approval. And that level of design isn't typically achieved at this point in the process.
Okay. So we could,
The comments don't need to be amended. They're not part of your motion.
Well, they do in the sense that by them
Oh, I
accepting the comments, we're expecting that they make
Yeah, we can note that in the
change.
minutes.
So-
okay,
That's
okay,
it.
gotcha.
It's not part of your motion, just so you know.
I see, I
In
see,
this
I
case,
see.
the
No.
accepting the engineering comments is part of your motion, should you choose to move it the way it's drafted.
I see, okay,
Right.
gotcha.
But not the staff comments. So yeah, I think that's his
Well,
input
it's
about what he
implied,
would like
yeah.
to see.
It's important because it's implied
So-
when we say, do you agree with the comments, that they're going to do that,
I
so.
see.
We need to cover in the, need to read the draft motion. Yeah, so 4 speaks to the consulting engineer review, and there's no condition that specifically talks about the fire marshal approval or anything. But they can't, basically they need that.
No, because like you said, it's part of the permitting process.
Right.
Yeah, this is staff feedback for the board's consideration.
Yeah.
That's what all the staff comments are.
Okay.
They're not, it's duly noted that they've been discussed in the
Yeah.
minutes.
So I think I would say with respect to, just for the minutes or whatever, that with respect to item 1, those details will be worked out in the permitting when they get it.
That's part of the building permit process.
Yeah, yeah. So we're not explicitly saying you have to do what's written here. It will happen as part of the building permit.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for jumping in there. Next up is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this application? Anyone online?
I don't see anyone online. No.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. So let's see, discussion points. I think I already talked about parking and traffic. Is there anything additional you guys wanted to talk about? Landscaping and buffering we talked about, unless any additional comments. I have no comments on the traffic figures or engineering review, unless staff had a specific concern there.
I think the only thing I would raise is that we need the updated submittal, which I think you said you were bringing tonight, correct?
I performed the calculations and verbally said that we'd be 53, but we can provide a formal, calculation package with our response to staff comments too, if that would be.
Yeah, I would suggest that would be something that the board should ask for, to have on record that they did follow up on the engineer's request to do it with a different calculation, and that here it is, and it still doesn't trip
So,
100. Does that, I think we want to have that on hand and ready.
Yeah.
Is that an additional condition?
yeah, I'm not sure that's covered in 4.
It is
Or is it?
implementing the comments from the consulting engineer review to do it under a different
Okay,
Okay.
calculation, yes. Yeah.
all right, so 4 covers that. Okay. You had your comments on the lighting. I don't have anything additional.
I don't.
Okay,
All right. We ready?
I think we're ready for a motion.
Move to approve the application by Jalbert Brothers LLC, represented by Acorn Engineering, for a site plan review of a proposal to redevelop the site at 15 Portland Road to add a retail trade use with an accessory office use on the 2.45 plus or minus acre property at tax map lot 43, lot 404-017-000 in the Village Center zoning district. This proposal subject to major site plan review and village design standards, subject to the following conditions listed 1 through 5A in the board materials.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? That's unanimous. Welcome to Gray.
Yes.
And yeah, so again, thank you, Kristen, and to all the applicants. I know I was definitely trying to move quickly tonight, and I did ask Kristen ahead of time to work with all the applicants to resolve as much as they could through staff interactions.
And she didn't have much time to do it.
And so there's a lot of work that went on with a lot of applicants, and we got them all in and did it in 2.5 hours. So impressed by what we could get done. But there was a lot of behind-the-scenes work, even though we moved quickly.
I've been here a lot later than this, so you're doing really well.
Yep. Yep. All right.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor? Don't need to second that one. You just raise your hand. Okay. And we will adjourn at